Sometimes we'll look at the negative aspects of what's going on the planet as a way to realign myself with what I want to see, in terms of politics or the environment or these things that pop up regularly. And I'm like, okay, I see that there's all this stuff happening.
Well,
there's
do you
a lot
acknowledge that this is a question and the answer is up for grabs? This is not an answer that is necessarily something that everyone would say, so we're just asking you. Are things better or worse on the planet today than they were 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
In some ways worse, in some ways better, I think.
And in what ways are they worse?
Environmentally, I think
there's certainly more of a spotlight on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you come to know as you've been playing with us a little bit? When you know what you don't want is when you know what you do want. And what happens when you have exposure to something and you ask? So what happens when billions of people, maybe, it's not billions, but let's say millions of people are observing what's happening, are worried about environment, and are sending off rockets of desire for planetary well-being? What does that do in terms of the vortex?
Makes it go faster and grow bigger.
Well, it puts the request into the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know about when it is asked? What happens? When it is asked, it is given, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask for something improved, this is the story of the evolution of all species. The evolution of all species is about nothing more than this. Every consciousness having exposure to physicality and requesting improvement. That's why the evolution of all species is happening. So the requests about this specific subject have been going in and are going into the vortex like never before. And so there is a stronger asking, and therefore there is a stronger answering. And so what's it going to take in order for humans to be inspired to whatever is necessary for them to live out the dream that they are asking for? Can they stay in that pushing against mode? Can they stay in that blaming mode? And the good news is, does everyone have to get into the receptive mode for answers to come? Or does just some people have to get into the receptive mode for answers to come? In other words, this is not a crisis of any greater proportion than anything that any of you have lived before. It's just that your airways cause more of you to talk about it and think about it, which only means the vortex is getting bigger faster, which only means the answer is coming stronger, which only means the answers are more available to more who are in the receptive mode. So nothing is going wrong. This is life on the leading edge. That's what it is, you see.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm starting to understand, and have been for a while, is that inspired action, aligned action, is where I should, or not should, but where I like to live my life from. So whatever I view, whether it's relationship, the different levels of relationship, that's like, my question is general. It's like even about relationship, the beloved relationship, which is talked about in the New Age, so I wonder, wherever I'm coming from, that's the level of relationship I'll engage in. Even with the same person, I can be at that more karmic, like you said, the lower vibrational interaction, or I could raise up to the higher vibration. And
it's one of the nice things when you learn how to accomplish a mathematical equation, then you can take any set of facts and you can come to an accurate conclusion or resolution. You can solve the problems once you know the formula. Mm-hmm. And this is the same thing. In other words, we could talk about all of those things that most people are talking about from this worrisome place, or we could get on the high-flying disc and receive the inspiration of what everybody's been put into the vortex. In other words, you're right. It is the same relative to all things. So what specifically are you wanting from us?
I guess sometimes...
Because we've talked all day.
Right.
First, we've talked about the importance of being there, and we think we've won you over, haven't we? And next, we've talked about different ways that you can get there, and most of it is by getting out of your head. Stop trying to solve all the problems of the world. Stop trying to get a consensus of a variety of people. Just trust that there is a well enough balanced bunch of you on this planet asking from every perspective that exists, and all of it going into a collective consciousness vortex, and all of those desires being answered by Source, and none of you having anything to worry about other than whether you're blocking yourself from solutions or whether you're in the stream of the solutions. It's like a giant magnifying glass has been laid over the entire planet, and law of attraction has been amped up so that thoughts are turning to things faster than ever before. which means thrivers are thriving at unprecedented rates, and those who are suffering at unprecedented rates, because what you've got going out vibrationally is what's coming back to you in a very strong way. And so there's never any injustice. There is a lot of misunderstanding. And with everyone who is living something that they are not wanting, they are posing a question. That's why your opening words to us are so interesting. I have been trying to formulate this question for a really long time. Well, imagine what mass consciousness has been doing about putting their request into the vortex. So there are some things that you kind of have to come on a premise of faith or trust about. You have to accept that there is source who is interested in you. And anything other than that is, from our perspective, as we even look through your eyes, a sort of unreasonable premise. In other words, how could you stand on this planet knowing what you know, the small, scanty amount that you know about your galaxy and the way your Earth spins in proximity to other planets in perfection? How could you not accept that there is something much more than the bunch of you? In other words, you're brilliant and you're lovely, but the whole bunch of you haven't figured out how to scrape another Earth together, a bunch of dirt together, and launch it into orbit. There is clearly a broader perspective. There is clearly a broader, loving consciousness. And so if you accept that that is so, and you acknowledge that your guidance system is telling you how to align with it and how to know when you're not, and you care about how you feel, that really is the thing that is the most interesting to us about humans who are working to understand this and to become deliberate in their offering of vibration and therefore in the controlling of their own personal experience. It is interesting how many people are willing to put up with negative emotion and disregard the enormous and important guidance that it is.
So do you think it's possible for us to live more in your reality where our contrast is between bliss and ecstasy?
We know for sure it is, and there are many who are doing it already. Do we think it's necessary for mankind to survive in mostly happily living ever after? No. In other words, you're doing very well with almost nobody living deliberately in terms of vibration. Because you all knew when you came in, your stream of well-being is so predominant. When you reemerge into non-physical, that's who you'll be. And then all those non-physical who have been here are shining back with you, leading you and leading you and leading you. It's not going wrong and it can't go wrong. So we're just wondering why any of you are so willing to claim it as going wrong when you can't get it wrong, because nothing's ever done. Nothing's ever done. It's just in a perpetual state of becoming. And you have much more hand in the becoming of it as it relates to you than most of you are willing to admit or to test or to practice or to master or to observe. But it is only in the mastery of your alignment that you will ever really enjoy life. And once you've mastered that receptive mode, so you get to watch the hand of source energy in the unfolding of things, you feel so blessed, you feel so worthy, you have so much fun, the ideas are coming. That's what you all came for. Not one of you thought that it was going to be a struggle. And when you first get here as little kids, it isn't. You believe in yourself, you believe in the world, you trust what your parents are saying to you. It isn't until you start observing the contrast. So then you say, well, Abraham, that's where it all goes wrong. There shouldn't be contrast for us to observe because then we lose our way. We say the contrast is essential to the eternalness that we all are. You've got to learn to cope with contrast. You've got to learn to cope with it, and you've got guidance system that helps you. And so it's time to just get on with what you know how to do.
Yeah. So I feel like the only thing that matters that I do in this life is to come into alignment. I feel like that's the most important thing.
Let's not go that far. It's not the only thing that matters. You want wonderful relationships, and you want to see beautiful things, and you want all the deliciousness that you've picked out along your way. It's not all that matters. It's just the thing that matters most because it's the premise to everything else that happens later. It's not all that matters. It's just a really important element that matters. Which means you got to lighten up and chill out and not make big deals out of things that aren't big deals. And don't be so defensive and don't try to justify your existence so much. And do more things that feel good and be more selfish about doing things that make you feel good. You are so interesting. You get in this attitude of virtue and valor and sacrifice. And then you get ornery. And then you complain about not being blessed when you're doing it all to yourself. And we know a lot of people have written a lot of books. I didn't do it to myself. I didn't feel this way till that happened. We say you felt something like that or that wouldn't. In other words, everything that comes in response to a vibration that you've got going on. And at no time can you not come into pure positive energy. And actually, that's what the death experience is. It's the ultimate getting into the receptive mode. And oh, what a party that is. You are very funny when you make your transition into non-physical and you get into the receptive mode and you get a look at all the things that didn't matter that you were making such a big deal about. That's a party worth going to.
I look forward to it.
We all line up. Oh, here's new ones coming. Listen to them laughing. It's not quite like that. No, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. As it occurs to you how simple it all was and how complicated you all made it. Yeah. All I had to do was love. What about that guy? He made it very hard for me to love. So I sacrificed 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades, 7 decades, 8 decades, 9 decades. And I croaked. I never loved that guy. I just love that guy. That unlovable guy is adding so much to the world. His elements of contrast are bringing clarity. He's causing things to go into the vortex without even knowing it. He's adding to the whole. He's valuable as is every other component. Yeah. But in non-physical, there's no regret about the 9 decades that you wasted while you hated that guy. Because you left all that resistance behind. Your family will keep talking about it. They'll write books about it. There'll be a monument. My father hated this guy. And with good reason. This is our family history. Let us tell you what this guy did to our family. Very interesting, isn't it? Something more? That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
That answers all the questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good. So there isn't anything that you're asking for that we haven't answered more than once in this conversation that we've had today. We want you to be easier about that. This has been an interesting day because it has been a day of more attention on unwanted, which is amplifying what is wanted, than some of the days that we've had. But as a result of it, it has caused us to, and these aren't the best words, to sort of dig deeper into the basis of how it all works. In other words, there isn't anything more valuable to you than the contrast that causes desire. Jerry used to say to people, he was counseling in financial matters, you want to put your basket of intentions, he was using the word goal in those days. You want to put your basket out there far enough that it's interesting and thrilling when you make the basket, but not so far that you don't believe that you can. And that really speaks to the vibrational energy balance that you're looking for all the time. You want to be as happy as you can be from where you stand, but not ask yourself to be happier than you believe that you can be. In other words, we want you to just accept what is with more appreciation of self. And you do that by acknowledging that you live in contrast for a reason and that contrast does serve you. So that you stop beating up on yourself when you feel negative emotion. When you feel negative emotion, instead say, this is good. My vibration in relationship to the vibration of my source is showing me through this negative emotion that I could shift my vibration and be in a better place. This is guidance. And I'm alert to my guidance. So pat yourself on the back more. Be more appreciative of what you know. Be less willing to wallow in the unwanted. Don't look for people to wallow there with you. Don't allow yourself the ease of momentum that will get started no matter what the subject is. Catch it earlier and decide if it's something you want to get bigger. And if it isn't something that you want to get bigger, do your best to change the subject. Do your best to distract yourself from it, even if it means take a nap, even if it means get into meditation, even if it means call up the only happy person you know and ask them to come and see you, and don't be surprised when they say, hell no. In other words, show yourself where you are vibrationally, and then do your best to get in the best feeling place that you can.